Costanza meets Sith Lord.
I'm so not scared right now.
I don't know.
George Costanza
Drama
meets
king.
Sith Lord. I love
Yeah.
it. All right.
Shamu.
We're back with another episode of Fade Boys After Dark. The Late Boys.
The
I'm
late
Ian.
boys.
I'm Chris.
I'm Andy.
I'm Patrick.
And we're the Fade
Fade
Boys.
After dark.
Welcome to our special guest, Andy Abbott.
How's it going, guys?
He might look related because he is.
I am. I'm Chris's brother.
Oh.
Glad to be here. Last minute joining, but I'm looking forward to the shenanigans that are sure to happen today.
Yeah. There's been some really good banter behind the scenes before we hit record, so I think this is going to be a nice little podcast for y'all. Thanks for listening, and let's get right into it.
Oh,
So we're
I'm
gonna have
starting
our
right off the bat.
guest.
Here we go.
Pulling from the Fate jar.
Keeping
Deciding
the
the topic.
theme. Alakazam.
Right up to the microphone. Got to get that ASMR going.
S&M, you know.
All right. Ooh, I like this one. Déjà Vu.
Oh,
Whoa.
hell yeah.
Deja Vu?
Is Déjà
Okay.
Vu. I think I've been here before, actually. Now I'm thinking about it. Actually, speaking of which,
You were
just right
here
off the
last
top of
night.
my head, anyone see that movie with Denzel Washington, Déjà Vu?
Yes.
We were just talking about that last night.
We were. So this is literally Déjà
We're
Vu.
going through
Deja
Denzel
Vu.
movies.
Deja
Déjà
Vu.
Vuing the Déjà Vu.
Amazing.
When did this come out?
Oh, it's several
Like
years since. Like,
2002 or
Yeah,
something.
Yeah,
I know.
early
Okay.
2000s. Yeah.
yeah, 2000s.
Okay, so I was
And,
in like third grade, so no wonder I
Yeah,
didn't see
just
it.
a big spoiler alert for everybody who hasn't seen it yet. But
Like a decade late,
Like,
but
You could drop into any Denzel movie and be
Oh, yeah.
fine.
First
That'd be
Denzel
sad.
movie I saw was Man of Fire. That was,
Oh my
Yeah.
God. That's your first Denzel movie?
dude, it was so good. I was so
good,
young.
but I'm surprised
I mean,
that that's
he's
your
been around
first
for a while.
Mine was
Denzel.
Training
Yeah,
Day.
I mean,
Training Day is
Training
also
Day,
That's such a
quality.
good one.
Yep.
every movie though is a little traumatic, so it doesn't matter. You know, you have to be a certain age, or
Every
you
movie
just
is
gotta jump
traumatic.
right in.
So
Like he's always playing like
Oh,
an intense
his
character.
movies? Okay,
Yeah,
I said
yeah, that's true.
Like every movie is traumatic. And
Every movie, I'm triggered.
But we've all seen Déjà Vu
he
movie
has
here, right?
no, I have
You have
not.
not?
I have, but I can't
Well,
remember
probably gonna ruin it
anything
for you,
about
but,
it.
That's okay.
It's still worth watching.
Okay.
So there's like this crime, and I think he's a cop. I can't quite remember exactly, but the big theme is kind of like time travel, and basically there's like a looping thing, kind of like the movie Looper, where stuff kind of loops in on itself.
Great movie.
With the time travel,
Mhm.
and there's eventually you get to this funky machine, and it's in New Orleans for some reason, but
Yeah.
they're going through this, and so he ends up coming back around and basically kind of solving the case and seeing clues that he's kind of left for himself for this like future loop self and what's looping where and
Oh,
all
so
those
he
kind of
knew
things.
he was gonna. Well,
It's giving me Memento
experience.
vibes.
Like
Yeah,
a little bit.
is time travel is very hard to explain. It's like, okay, how does what touches what? Is it actually repeating?
so is that actually Deja Vu though?
I mean, yeah.
Well,
know.
that
Let's
probably
define it.
leads to the bigger question
Yeah,
of like,
talking about
Sure. Okay.
so
Legion or
that's
Camp?
my contemplation real quick here is like,
Get it.
it is right. Deja vu, my understanding experience is like that feeling of you've been there before. I think that's the most like defined probably in the dictionary.
Mhm.
But my personal experience has been literally that I've dreamed things that have happened, and I don't
Is that
necessar-
deja vu though?
I don't know. Well, because I get the same feeling as when I have had deja vu, but I don't necessarily believe that I've actually experienced it before.
Hmm.
But in this capacity, I have experienced it at least through dream. But the movie and what you were bringing, the plot line is even more interesting. Like not just in dreaming, but have you actually lived it? And would you be conscious that you would live it or are going to live it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, deja vu, I've had it. I can't remember a specific example because it usually feels pretty amorphous and kind of just a general
For sure.
vibe or a feeling, as we would
Sure.
say now, right?
Yeah.
And so, it could be like in a car and something just goes, oh, I could swear I've done this thing before at some point. Classic kind of feeling there. For me, I always think of it as like, our unconscious brain is doing so much filtering and so much sorting of what we perceive through every one of our senses, because there's so much information out there, that you hit this deja vu, and now it's like something that you've probably seen before, whether it could be a texture, it could be an object, could be someone you talk to, a feeling that you have, and it goes, oh, this is coming back up, and the source of it, I have no
So
idea.
like pattern
But
recognition is what you're
yeah,
saying.
I think that's kind of how I think of it.
Okay.
Have you ever had any specific deja vus that you can think of that maybe went a little more specific than just a general feeling of familiarity?
Yeah, I really don't think so, at least that I can think of at this particular moment.
Have you ever had like or any of you, but a lock-in moment, like what you're saying, where
Lock-in?
like for me, I've had deja vu.
Christopher Locken.
I've had a deja vu where it's kind of like I'm like, oh, I remember this feeling, and this is what I chose, or this is where it's going.
Interesting.
And so I kind of like either try to resist it or I try to kind of go with it. So it's just like a different.
Okay, Paul Atreides.
Madib, Lisan. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys.
So for me, I think deja vu, in my definition of it, is you are reminded of something that you have already experienced in some capacity. But I also feel like for myself, and generally speaking, it's along the same sensation that you're talking about around, it feels almost amorphous. It feels kind of vague, kind of like a dream. Like when you have a very vivid dream, but then you go to tell somebody about it, and then all the details seem to fall away. You could barely remember everything about it, but you kind of have a sensation. It was a weird dream, but where was I? I was like in a house
it's really
or something.
hard to put your finger on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of quintessential to what deja vu is, or at least the feeling of it is. It's reminiscent of something, but it's also, the lock-in thing is interesting. But I think for me, there is like a moment where you catch it.
Yeah.
Where there's like a sequence of events where you could say like someone tripped, butterfly, latte spill, or something, and you're like, that's happened before. Like I feel like I've literally had that happen back to back to back, and that's happened to me before. But
So
it's almost
sequence deja vu.
But I feel like it's like you forget it. I think forgetting it is part of the definition. Like you had to have forgotten that moment, and then it comes up again. Like I've been here, I've done this, but it's not possible because I'm moving forward linearly through time.
Yeah,
you're experiencing it.
I'm wondering.
Maybe that's the dream thing. Is just really fascinating.
I wanted to ask. This is open. If you guys feel a synchronicity sort of element to it, or as in, do you feel any meaning coming from the deja vu?
Before we do that,
sure,
it's your turn.
Okay. I think that in my past, pretty much all of my deja vu experiences were more like Andy described, where it was pretty amorphous, but I really felt it potently. Like, whoa, I've either been at this corner before in this way, in this lighting, or someone will say something. That was a common one where somebody I'd be in conversation with would say a very specific sentence, and it would trip me out because I hadn't talked to that person in weeks,
True.
But now more recently, I would say pretty much 90% of my deja vus come from a dream.
So, and when you say dream, what, are they like, have they been strong dreams or meaningful, right? Leading into your question, because I think when I say dreams, a lot of my experience has been around, when it's like you wake up and you're like, oh wow, that dream happened, and then you forget it.
That's what I was just saying.
And,
exactly.
Yeah, and then I think it's related to the meaning question. That's why I want to add this point is like when I asked sequential deja vus, because it sounded like that's what you were saying. Like, so same with the lock in, right? Like, oh, you were saying like a coffee and whatever. So if I lock in, I do that. And then there's that in between moment where you're not experiencing deja vu anymore, and then you experience another one like a little down the line in the same day, in the same.
As if you chose the same thing.
Whoa.
That's interesting. I have heard, and I don't know or remember where I heard this, but there was a theory around deja vu from a spiritual perspective that is a reminder that you're on the right path.
Interesting.
So like the idea is like if you're following the trajectory that you should be, which interestingly enough ties in fate and destiny, and
love it.
Always a nice little tie for the fate boys. But this idea that you're following the correct trajectory, and it's the universe's way of kind of reminding you or letting you know, kind of a breadcrumb of like,
You are on
you're
the
on it
golden
because you
path.
will experience this thing that kind of locks in, or like
Totally.
you can register, oh, this is in alignment with something. Like there's the synchronicity of something, that these two things are lining up and it feels like you're living it again.
Whenever I've had a dream, it's usually about a conversation, a moment of a conversation with another person. And when I experience it again as the deja vu moment in real waking life, it's always been a meaningful conversation that affects me from then on. So it's never just been
a
I
one-off.
went to McDonald's and I got a McChicken.
And then you went to McDonald's and got a McChicken.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this is so weird.
Whoa, what color was it? Was it the same cat?
Probably.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get into
Do
Matrix.
you feel like
That was the first thing I thought of.
do you
Was
feel
the
like
Matrix.
the deja vu feels like it gives you that those moments meaning? Because I mean, like, I've had deja vus in the most random situations, like sitting in the back of your guys' car after we're getting like a breakfast burrito, and it's kind of like,
It's an archetypal
what kind
moment.
of
100%.
moment is that about? And yeah, we have deep conversations all the time, but it's kind of like the first time that I actually had a dream, that I was like, no, it wasn't like, oh, maybe I dreamed it. I'm like, I had that dream. It was in 8th grade. I was like Spanish public school. Literally, I took the step forward and it was like lights, camera, action. And I was like, literally, I could hear what everyone was talking about. We were waiting for gym class teacher to show up. And literally everything was exactly the same as my dream. But it seemed like a really meaningless moment. So I don't know what that's about. But most of the other ones seem more meaningful. So that's what's weird, is that like that was like really strong. And I'm like, why did I dream the future about me waiting for gym class?
Well, that's why I think it's interesting. Like, is it deja vu or is it premonition? Like the idea of having something that's coming in that you remember from a dream specifically, and then it aligns in real life. I think that is more in alignment with like intuition or foreseeing the future type of truth sayer type of.
That leads me to a question. I'm talking a lot, but is
Yeah, you are.
Well, but I ask you questions because I want all these to.
It's great. No, I love the question.
We're leaning on you. It's great.
Was intuition. So my question was, if you're living in a more awakened state continually, will you reduce your deja vus, or if you're coming from that kind of perspective?
You have more, because if you're more aligned.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
No, but you're already conscious, right? As you become more like.
Do you need the reminder? It's kind of like the idea.
Do you need the confirmation? Do you need the?
Should I be insulted when I get a deja vu?
Because
the universe, you not call me conscious.
Because we talked about like sovereignty.
Come on, jeez.
So if you're in your sovereignty and you're in your like godhood, the way I'd put it is like, then would you have less of those? Because do you really need that?
That's a great question.
That's a
Andy,
great question.
what do you think?
Man, I mean, it's hard for me to just be presupposing things, and
that's the beauty of the
theorizing.
cast.
I'm allowed to do it in this space. Okay, thank you.
100%.
Absolutely.
This is a safe space.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, bring your deja vus.
It's been a long time since I've personally had a deja vu, so I guess I'm drifting off track, or I'm more enlightened, depending on your theory there.
That's it.
Love that.
So what? Yeah. So how would you take it?
And the ring light's really helping me waking up. So after dark, after light. I don't know. It's it'd be nice to have that regular reminder, right? Of like, hey, you're doing the right thing, because going through our own lives, it's a lot of doubt of, hey, what's the right thing? Where should I be going? What should I be doing? Who should I be talking to or paying, giving my energy to, and all those kind of things. But I personally can't say that I've got that. I don't feel like I have that intuition, that awakened states. So I don't know how you guys are feeling.
I think it depends on where you bring your attention. I think there was an interview with Tony Robbins, and it was a podcast with Theo Vaughn.
Great,
sure.
That great.
So it was more recent.
Yeah, definitely more recent. And
Couple
Theo was talking about how he felt like he was such a failure and dealt with negative self-talk and felt like he didn't really have a lot of direction in his life. And he was talking with him, and he said, okay, I want you to do this exercise. He's like, okay, I want you to look around the room, and I want you to look at everything that's red. Like, take a minute, look at everything in the room, try to remember and track everything that's red.
Yeah.
And he's like, now close your eyes. Now, if I were to ask you to recount how many things that you saw were red, would you be able to do that?
Right.
And he's just like, yes. He's like, okay, now open your eyes. And he's like, okay, how many things in the room were blue? And he's just like, you're going to remember, and the things that are going to be going into your consciousness and what you're going to be focusing on are the things that you're choosing to focus on. And what the brain is so good at is manipulating the data. He's like, how many things that were brown that you called red?
Yeah.
How many things that were magenta that you called
stood out
red?
to me.
Yeah.
You know, and these things that we will, to try to like prove ourselves or
bring it into your bias.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of bias.
But it was really, it was this really powerful moment and statement where it was, what are you choosing to focus on? Because whatever you are choosing to bring your awareness and focus to is what you're going to see more of. And I think we've all had this experience, kind of tying it back to Déjà Vu, of like, if you're thinking about getting a new mattress and you're driving and all you see is like signs for mattress stores, or like you're talking to somebody, you hear like, hey, I just got this new Serta, it was amazing, you know?
That's your brain's reticular activating system. Activation
brain
system.
on Patrick. All right. All right. Nice.
That's what you call pro.
No, that's what, that's the mechanism.
I
in the
know.
human
Yeah.
brain.
Reticular what?
Reticular activation system.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
The filtration system, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically
attention.
that's interesting. I didn't even know that that was a thing. But that's that aspect of it. I think for people just in living their general life, if you're stressing about something, it's like the law of attraction, right? It's like what you choose to focus on, you're going to attract more of, and that works for positive and negative. And so interestingly, trying to tie it back into like to Déjà Vu as a recognition or a reminder or a breadcrumb of being on the right path or so. For myself, based on your question, I think if you're bringing more awareness to being in the flow, I don't think that you're going to necessarily need that. You're not going to forget the thing to then be reminded like, oh, you're on the right path. You're going to be much more in harmony with that experience. I think for me, the Déjà Vu moments that I've had, they seem somewhat benign, right? Like it's a song on in a car ride while you're drinking a particular beverage and you're like, I've done this before. Like,
and maybe having a specific thought.
Right. And I've had this experience. Yeah. And I think it can also, I don't know, like, I think there's definitely this question that happens of where in time is this happening, right? Like, is this happening now, or is this the remembrance of the thing that of the past?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I mean, the thing is, if that's general, I think it's kind of a, how many times have we been in the car drinking something, listening to a song, right? Like your brain could be like, well, you were in the car before drinking something. This is just a little bit different, but your brain's going, oh, this is kind of similar to what I had before.
You guys find yourselves in that moment of questioning the déjà vu when it happens, like, oh, maybe I've done this so many times. Of course, I feel like it's synchronistic.
Yeah,
or déjà
that's
vu.
where the experimentation. When I said and asked the question about locking in, I'm like, I can't be certain that me locking in is gonna like create more meaning or something. But like, I think it's a good experiment. Like, can I resist it, right? Because it leads all to the fate. Like, is it destined to happen? And then you were talking about timelines up here. Wonderful producer has the Mandela effect, which is, there's a lot of this stuff around, and it's like, it can seem a little woo-woo, but it does seem that there are a lot of people that have these. It's like a collective remembrance. So it's like, are we living in the most weird timeline where we forget a bunch of stuff, And I mean, my spiritual understanding is like, we come here, but we forget, and our job is to remember. And it sounds kind of like, what? But that's kind of how it is. And for me, at least in my experience.
For me, when I've had déjà vu, I will say more recently of what I can actually remember, there's no way that it could have happened previously. For myself, in my own experience, like I had a hit of déjà vu when I was on my honeymoon in Bali. Never been married before, never been to Indonesia before. But that's kind of why, for me, the theory of it being more kind of in alignment with your path is like, you were gonna get here, you just hadn't gotten here yet.
Yeah.
But it was something that you had, but there's also like a pattern recognition thing to it. I think also that's intrinsic of things that you've experienced that are syncing up. But those are the weird ones for me. It's like there's no way that I could have done this before, but I'm having this deep sensation like I've been on this intersection, I've been looking this direction, this bird flew this way, like I've had this moment. It's weird.
Yeah.
I love thinking about remembrance in this context. I agree with Chris. I think that our spirit, soul, higher self is aware of all possibilities happening simultaneously, and there's a field of potentiality that every human has their unique access to. So when I experience certain things, especially the meaningful moments in my life, it does kind of feel like a remembrance, like I'm accessing something that has already happened or that was meant for me. Or when maybe I'll make it more practical. When I'm reading something really profound that hits on a deep level, like a deep wisdom level, it feels like I'm remembering and it doesn't feel like I'm learning something new. And I would say déjà vu, even though they might not be as profound right off the bat when I experience it, it feels kind of the same in the remembrance kind of aspect.
Have you ever tried to like
Thought he was going to say, have you ever tried LSD?
every moment
Yeah.
is deja vu.
That'd
Have
be
you
hell.
tried the like experimenting like in your deja vus, like how you approach them like during or after?
I would say they happen really quickly, and by the time I recognize that it's a deja vu, it's already happened,
Right.
and now I'm
But
observing
so
it.
is it a choice point, or is it like you're just fated to
I'm
continue
experiencing
on,
it.
right? Because I feel like
Yeah.
for me the deja vu feels like a pause, and that's where I say the lock in.
I mean, it'd be
Yeah,
like
I'm
walking down the
super
street.
curious about that.
and you
That
go,
has not
"Oh."
been my experience,
Like-
especially with the
Like
sequential.
for some
deja
reason
vu.
I feel like my awarenesses have gained so that when I have these deja vus, even subtle deja vus, it's like part of me is caught on, and so then I'm like, okay, do I roll with it? And it's kind of like up to me, but
You're just more
and-
enlightened, apparently.
yeah,
yeah.
maybe. But and then you were
Okay.
talking about remembrance, and I'm kind of like, is it a remembrance, or is it trying to get you to where you're going? Like, right? Is it a
Doesn't that feel like imposing a lot on a specific experience, though?
well, we
Yeah.
talk a lot about, well, it's more just like a checkpoint. There's multiple checkpoints. I mean, my understanding of time is like, it's like, it's like a movie reel, like every little frame, but every little frame is important because it creates smoothness, but we
Mhm.
experience it as one movement.
Sure.
When you say smoothness, you mean continuity?
Continuity. Yeah, exactly. So it's like we experience continuity, but essentially every moment is just as important as the last because they're all like each,
They
the
stack
whole
on each
idea
other.
of being present is like this moment, this moment, this moment, but we experience reality and time as this one swoosh.
Swoosh.
I'm super curious
Yeah.
about your deja vu experiences because I can't think of any one of mine now or in the past where it's been long enough in the moment, like more than a sequential or one frame.
It's like
one frame
it's
in
a
that movie,
sensation
right?
more
Right,
so than
right.
anything else.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a
Right.
curiosity. Like, I think the most recent one I had, it was something around, I was in the back of your car and we got a breakfast burrito. And,
I remember you mentioning it actually.
and I said deja vu, and like that was one that I can't say it was a dream or anything. I can't for
Okay.
certain. But part of me is in that awareness is like, I can't say that I had extra control or anything, but I was like, I just remained curious. Like, it's about the consciousness and the awareness for me of remaining curious as to how it plays out and see if there is something that's related to more deeper meaning in my life. So it's not just the deja vu itself, it's about what's happening in context around the deja vu.
And I think the focus that you bring to that is kind of to the point I was bringing in around where you place your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Because humans are meaning making machines, right? Like we literally create meaning out of anything and significance out of anything. And
Buys everything.
right. So it's like we try to like justify or understand our experience, and we can put all of these different definitions around it. And I think the more that we bring that sense of curiosity, for me, it's like having that presence is remaining curious to things rather than being driven by my emotional response to something. If I'm reactive to something, I'm not present
Mhm.
because I'm
That's right.
reactive. There was
for
an
sure.
interesting the tie-in for me, which I think is really interesting. Our lovely, amazing producer, who's also my wife, Eden Shaw, has put up on here Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a fantastic movie. Have you
Really good.
seen it?
Seen
Watched
it.
it with you.
Seen it?
Yes.
Okay.
Finally.
Yeah,
My
well,
dad was
I've
like,
seen
"This
one.
is a weird movie." I'm
It
like,
is
"It's
weird.
so good."
Strange
It's
one.
very
strange.
strange. But
On purpose.
there's kind of a tie-in to that when they are shifting timelines. They have to do something that no one has ever done in any of the timelines for it
Big
For
responsibility.
you to switch
Yeah,
for you,
tracks,
for you to
right?
switch tracks.
That's right.
So it's
Okay.
like to be able to jump, there's that requirement. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But they can become conscious, and that's where they're shifting. And that brings the whole thing about purpose and responsibility. Like
Take us in.
like they're
It's gonna be
shifting
juicy.
because it's like they're choosing to have the responsibility over multiple timelines for some greater reason, right? Like they could just trail along on the one, but they're like, I want to be involved in multiple of them.
So it seems to me, Chris, that you see deja vus as a crossroads point or a choice point.
Yeah, it's like call to awareness, but also like a choice point. And it, like I said, sometimes it feels like you can go with the flow, which I would agree, but sometimes I think just in life's human experiment, it's good to kind of go against the grain to test it. You have to test something. Like I could just tell you deja vu is this or that, or I think this and that, but like if I don't test it, I'll only have one outcome consistently, potentially. And yeah, every deja vu is maybe different, but everyone has deja vu, it seems like.
Yeah. Given our conversation so far, I would be like, I'm probably gonna have a deja vu in like the next couple of days, just because.
For sure.
But
Having
you
a
know,
deja vu right
100%.
now.
right now. I mean, I've never been on a podcast before, so
Yay!
Yay.
First time.
Glad
Glad
Hooray.
you're here. Yes.
You're shifting timelines.
He's beginning to believe.
So we have the definition for the translation from French for deja vu also, which that's an excellent
oh
poll.
really?
Already seen.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
that I think that is something that we're talking like you've already experienced it, like you've already
Yeah.
seen this. But already seen, you could have already seen it in a dream. Like so
True.
by that definition, like that would
Yeah.
track as well, and that would fall underneath it because you've already seen this experience. It was in a dream, it
Mhm.
didn't happen in that reality, but you've already seen
For
it.
me, it's typically a visual experience, more so than conversation.
never had
It's very sensory for me. I
Sensory?
would say more so than just
Interesting.
visual, because I'll remember feeling cold, and I'll remember seeing something or hearing something, and I'll be like, I've done this before.
So
It's very
specific.
it's
kind
very
of.
spatial
Huh.
for me.
So you guys haven't had like thoughts? Because like for me,
You haven't
the
had
deja
thoughts?
vus
God,
have
so
had.
judgmental.
Oh man.
You guys have a thought in your fucking
Did it
life?
I
hurt?
don't know if I should share these thoughts, but no,
Please
I
don't.
oh god. But no, like for me, even sometimes the deja vu, I'll literally be like, oh, this is like the emotion and this thought that I was having. And that's the added layer that none of you guys have mentioned, and I'm just curious if any of
I
you
haven't. I don't think I've had that with deja vu specifically.
It's gone by pretty quick, as we've talked about already, and like it'll just, for me, it just is like I'm in the moment, and I just get the feeling that I've been or done something here before. And like you were talking about feeling cold, like that's pretty cool. I kind of want to have that experience. But,
Yeah.
and what I was trying to get to here just a little bit ago is like, hopefully my next deja vu, whenever that happens, I'll be able to like remember this and go, hey,
We talked about this.
we talked about this.
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna say your homework is to be
Is
more
to have
aware.
a deja vu. Well, be aware. Yeah, I gotta have the deja vu first, but then also be aware at the same time.
So
yeah.
you're a pilot, right?
Yeah.
So have you ever had an experience with deja vu whilst flying?
No, I don't think so.
'Cause you fly a lot of the same routes and a lot of the same.
Yeah, there's a lot of repetition. Absolutely. Features? Not really. I might have when I was younger. I'm
He's not
certainly
dreaming,
did.
he's living.
But now that I'm
Living his dream.
I mean, really. I mean, I reached my goal essentially for career, and there's still changes that'll happen, but
Chewing ice in the mic.
yeah,
Crunch.
a real ASMR experience here.
So can we
Sorry.
buy your course on how to manifest your dreams?
Have lots of money. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I like that you guys are calling in the lucidity factor. You know, Chris, you've been talking about the choice point and locking in, and I'm super curious now if I can engage that capacity for lucidity in a moment of deja vu, because I would say they're pretty rare for me, maybe once a month.
Oh, wow.
You know,
that's way more frequent than
That's
I
way more
would.
frequent than me.
Okay.
I'm talking
Whoa.
years, bro.
Was that a weird flex? I
Yeah,
don't know.
Yeah,
yeah.
seriously.
You can only bench
That's-
350
You
now.
get them like once a month.
I would say that might even be
That's just your cycle.
You
3
stop
months.
me dead in my tracks. I just wonder. I wonder when I'm experiencing that moment of deja vu, what am I being lucid of? You know, I'm already recognizing, even somewhat unconsciously, that maybe I've been here before, seen this, heard this. What else can I bring in to the equation of the deja vu? You know, what could I choose differently? What, you know, how do I engage with that moment in a new way? Whereas before I would have just been like, oh, that's a deja vu. Continue with my life.
Well, what about being more present, right? Like in the because I
Mental
find, you
space.
know, oftentimes as awakened and conscious as we can claim we are, like we're not really fully there. So it's like opening up that.
Are you telling me to read The Power of Now again?
I never read it. I'm gonna do it right now. The power of right now is right now.
Well,
I'm jumping on because I have a question for you. From my perspective, Patrick, you seem like someone who is such a prolific dreamer. You remember your dreams so vividly, and you have these, you know, from what you've shared with me, these really like visceral, vivid dreams. And it's actually fascinating and interesting that you don't have the dream to real life connection as frequently as I assumed that you would. What do you think about that?
I would say that the more visceral, visual, imaginative dreams they're so symbolic and archetypal that I'll experience these, whether it's epic battles or beautiful mythological scenes that I'm participating in. I experience the same emotions and sensations from that dream in my waking life. So it helps me frame my waking life in a more mythopoetic way, which I love. That's definitely part of my purpose and how I engage with my art and the way I want to see the world. But I would say my dreams that have more of a mundane feel and look to them, those tend to be way more potent in terms of the lessons, like real downloads where I'm like, whoa, what is that aspect of me represented by this specific person? Whereas if I'm having a really mythic dream, I'm pretty caught up in the symbolism and the beauty and the conflict, and there's a different kind of meaning there, but there's a deeper tie-in my opinion, right now with my dreams, where if I'm dreaming about, I had a dream about Ian and Eden, and we were in the back of their truck getting a breakfast burrito, having this conversation, it actually tends to have a really deep impact on me when I explore in my waking life the next day what part of me was Ian representing, what part of me was engaged by what Eden said to me in the dream, and what emotions were engaged. And that's the tie-in for me there. And I think, well, obviously more deja vus that tie into my dreams are on that mundane sort of field.
Yeah, versus like the heavily archetypal
Right.
and very like goddess level dream, or like war dreams.
But actually, sometimes now that I'm realizing, I'll have a dream about, you know, a battle in ancient Egypt or something, and then I'll see something on the TV screen that super specifically references, you know, a battle of ancient Chem, and I'm like, what? You know, that'll happen from time to time. Which can be meaningful, and then I'll explore the book or watch the show or whatever it is, and that's rewarding. But I feel like there's much more.
You feel like there's a bridge between the archetypal mythopoetic, I love that word,
Thought you might.
aspect and the more like mundane.
I definitely have noticed lately that the more lucid and conscious I become in my waking life, the more capacity for choice I have in those dreams of epic conflicts. Whereas for months straight, I've been having dreams of epic mythological battles where I'm just getting killed no matter what choices I'm making, and I'm trying to make choices. Whereas in my waking life, I'll have more minute choice points of what thoughts am I letting in, how am I directing my emotional body, what's my how present am I in my relationships, and then I'll have another one of those archetypal dreams, and I'll make a very powerful decision that I would not have been able to make previously, and it changes the whole narrative of the dream, which then has a feedback loop for me with my next day in the waking life.
I love that. So you do see the connection between the archetype and the personal,
Definitely.
and then
Definitely.
that ties in beautifully to my hermetic understanding of like as above, so below, as below, so above. So you can work on both levels, and you probably should, in my
Amen. Yeah.
humble opinion.
In
my humble
all over the
opinion,
place.
in my experienced opinion. But
Like
yeah,
correct,
my more
accurate.
you
enlightened
best come
perspective.
correct, brother. Yeah, I love that. My question may a little different than this because that goes into archetypes, which we still
We
need
got.
a
Well, I want to
full
say
It's waiting.
multiple
It's waiting. It's on
episodes.
simmer.
Yeah.
Building.
That's right.
Have you ever had
Gotta
like
make 'em
a?
want it.
10th episode. 10th
Yeah.
You guys ever
We
had
gotta
like
tease the
a?
audience, guys.
Gotta make 'em want it.
coming up.
Dun dun.
Next
Have you-
week on MacGyver.
on The Office. Well, we've been MacGyvering these.
Say it.
I was gonna say these microphones, but
We knew what you meant.
It can be both. It can be both.
the question was, have you guys experienced like a false deja vu where like because I've had those where I'm like, is this deja vu? But it's not quite there, and then literally like moments or minutes or hours later, I experience a deja vu.
Whoa.
Like back
Like
to
a
back. I don't think I've
preemptive-
No,
done that.
not like back to
Yeah.
back. Like I have this like this feels familiar, but it's not the ching feeling like it's like
Does
it's
your
not the
deja
like
vu sound like a ka-ching?
it's like a pause. It's like a pause button, you know, where it's like this is it.
Yeah.
Whereas like I've had
Whoosh.
moments where I'm like, this feels familiar. It's not a dream. I haven't been here before. You know, all the kind of thoughts.
A precursor to a
Yeah,
deja vu.
but and then all of a sudden I have a deja vu like after, and I actually get the feeling, and I was like, how was I?
Chris, are you a precog from Minority Report?
Yes.
Have you been sipping that water?
It
all
seems
life?
to be.
Like that's the feeling I'm getting right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping I
Had
was
this
more
deja vu
like
that you were peacocks.
That's right.
Arnold in Terminator, but
Oh, that's a good one too.
Is Tom Cruise as short as you think he is?
but I mean, again, it kind of always leads to the question of like meaning and purpose around that, and
I think that's how you're wired, though. I think that's where you're bringing your attention. Like you're looking for meaning, looking for purpose, looking for awareness, and so it would be a natural proclivity for that to have that result for you.
yeah, and the meaning and purpose. It's interesting. Is like we like our meaning, creating machines, purpose, machines, and yet part of me from our conversation around fate and destiny is kind of like we all do have a specific purpose. I think there is an element of will and we're creating it, but it's also kind of like aligning with it. It's like aligning with the river, like going with the flow of the river. You know, you're going to get to where you need to go faster than if you're just like rowing
You're
against
gonna
it.
get there faster if you're a freaking purpose machine.
And
Yeah.
precog. I mean, you're gonna
machine.
I just want to start calling you that from now
And
on.
from, I don't know, from
Chris,
like
purpose machine.
a metaphorical standpoint, like maybe the purpose in completing the purpose, you're actually helping the whole ecosystem of the river. So it's not just about you.
Ooh.
It's the purpose to me. It normally indicates some level of like awareness and service to other.
I think it was Gandhi, right? Was it Gandhi who said, "If you by changing yourself, you change the world"?
Yeah, like
Believe
be the
so.
change
By-
you want to see.
Well, yeah, and or was it Paramahansa Yogananda?
I thought it was
There's-
Gandhi.
Was it Gandhi?
Audience, correct us, please.
Or
No,
Yes.
Gandhi is the
Please
quoted one as
help us out.
being be the change you
You
want
wanna
to see in the
We'll
world.
pull it up real quick.
but there is a quote around like if you're wanting to change the world, focus on yourself.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
if every person were to do the internal work to actually better themselves, and every person alive was a Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi. Then if you do that inner work, then you will have changed the world because like you're saying, there's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
by being in the river doing the thing that you need to do for the river. And if everyone did that, then there would be this universal alignment towards progression and growth. And there wouldn't be these catastrophically large problems that we have to contend with, because it seems like everyone's not putting back their shopping cart.
Yeah.
Nice
Seriously.
image.
Yeah, that's a great example. Like, that's how you can tell either someone's mindset or the kind of person they are, whether they put it back or not.
Just wondering.
I believe so. What do you mean? Like,
Oh.
yeah.
I mean, I see that universally from like Whole Foods to Walmart.
Sure.
I think you see it everywhere.
Yes.
The amount might be a little different, but
there's a psychological mindset, and they have that. They teach it in psychology classes.
Focus and
around like the psychology of the shopping cart. Like, are you the person who replaces it all the way back to the inside of the store where you got it?
Yeah.
Do you walk it to the receptacle in the parking lot? Do you lift it over the curb next to your parking spot so it's technically out of the way, but like it's not?
Right.
Depends on the
back
parking
somewhere?
lot, because at our friendly neighborhood King Supers, they don't even have the receptacles in the parking lot. What do you want me to do? I'm going to curb it.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, so where does your level of responsibility lie? Like in that equation, not saying that you are responsible.
Well, I'm
in
totally
that
responsible.
Patrick's going to be about a shopping cart war now.
100%. I'm going to go to King Supers. I'm going to have a moment.
Here we go.
A moment with the shopping cart, and I'm going to be like, "This is my lock-in. This is my moment.
I'm walking in right now.
This is my moment."
Grips the bar extra hard.
Just gonna say,
ready
I
to
feel like
go.
I had a tiny mini deja vu when you're talking.
Oh my
about
God! I'm
shopping
feeling
cart.
like a bad
This
person.
is happening
right
live,
now.
folks. It's happening live.
So called.
I'm just gonna throw it on the sidewalk. I've watched people like
Maybe
load
you should
their
become a
truck.
psych student.
Well, when I was at the grocery store yesterday, I did put my cart back. Safeway puts the receptacles in the parking lot ready for you.
There's like
for me to be a good
I'm a
person.
UX designer, so there's like a UX side of that user experience. Like if I'm the facility where I'm at and I'm providing shopping carts, I would want to put them equally spaced.
Make it easy
so that way I
for
can
people to do it.
So it makes
Sure.
sense.
Yeah.
But I've literally watched people unload their thing, push it to the side of their truck, and then just back out
You
and
can't
leave.
even park.
So they're
Yeah, you
worse
can't
than I
even-
am, right? They're worse than
like,
I am. They're worse.
Literally, like
You're not that bad, Patrick. You're not that bad.
like leaving it just
There's
out.
like,
Like
scum, and then there's Patrick, and then there's like the scum.
Thank
You
you.
know.
Thank you. I'm satisfied with being at a level 5 evil in the King Supers parking lot.
Oh man.
we Eden and I literally just experienced this today. We were coming back out of the store, and it was overflowing. The people who were supposed to be bringing them back in, they're either don't hire enough people to do it or whatever.
We reach critical mass.
But it was a critical mass. But there was like
Big
one that
chaos
was
energy.
sitting out in the middle of the parking lot. Like, so you would have to like drive around
in the middle of the space.
in the middle of the parking lot. Not the space, like
In
the
aisle of traffic?
driving. Someone just left it there.
That's
so
way worse than me.
I literally pulled over and I said, Eden, please, would you mind like hopping out and putting it back and like being part of the solution to the world?
Thank God.
And she tried to put it back in the place and it was like jammed, like it wouldn't go in.
Oh.
So assuming that's what happened, somebody tried and they said, fuck this.
The wheels
then
were
just
jammed, is
abandon
what
it.
you're saying.
No, it wouldn't go into the other cart.
Oh.
Forward.
man.
So I'm assuming what happened is the person tried to put it in, it didn't work, and then rather than say, "Oh, I need to do something else," they just said, "Fuck this," and they just dipped. But she put it in the other side. There are two lanes, and it fit fine.
Oh.
But it's
Just took that second step.
Exactly. It's the idea of like, are you going to do the right thing or not?
Yeah.
You know, even
Yep.
if you try to do it, and I understand that there are circumstances, right? If you
Always.
have someone who's in the car who needs to get something very quickly, you have a crying, screaming toddler who has like a cold, and you have all these things, and you haven't slept right for 48 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not going to grind your gears.
We're
You
still
know,
going to
like-
give you the shopping cart personality test to see how
But-
evil you
Does
are.
everyone
But
have the
like,
same
but like, where are
responsibility?
you? But where in that, like, there's justifiable reasons, but again, this is like meaning making machine kind of
Totally.
thing. It's like,
Yeah.
where on that spectrum are we applying that value to replacing a shopping cart? And I think if all things neutral, like everyone's had 8 hours of sleep, everyone's feeling
God, I'd
resourced,
love
everyone's at the same level of economical status, like everyone makes the same amount of money in this equation, like person A
We're
and
all as
person B.
enlightened as Chris.
Like, what is your response? Like, is your response to do it? And I feel, for me, when I read that study of how do people break these down, that's kind of where I have the hierarchy of it drawn to is, are you the person to walk it all the way back to where you got it from? Like literally reset, because I don't know about everybody else, but when I was growing up, the way that I was raised was you leave it better than you found it.
Mhm.
So if you stay over at someone's house, you leave that room better than how you found it. You replace it, you replace the towel, you do it
Yep.
to
You
the best of your
restock the
ability.
shelf on the grocery after you.
Well,
but it's like the idea of like if somebody picks you up from the airport, you offer them money for gas. It's like all these types of like considerations and ethics. And this idea of the shopping cart analogy to me is it's like you don't consider other. I think there are some instances where it goes above and beyond. If I were to walk to the back of the supermarket to replace the basket that I carried in all the way back to where I got it from, or do I take it to the closest receptacle where there's someone paid to come and pick them up and do the thing? Or do I just teep it over and kick it over in the middle of the lot and say, well, I'm done with it, boom, and just like kick it over?
A teep. Ian just referenced a Muay Thai kick, just to put that out there.
For all those people who don't know what a teep is, that's it.
Yeah.
This is Sparta, and they drop kicking somebody. Yeah. It's called a teep.
Wow. That was a beautiful tangent.
More
teep you over.
Teep you over.
Yeah.
Well, I think it all relates to like meaning and purpose, and I think the key points that seem to stand out from that are like relating to the other, but and then there's and that meaning and purpose is always grander than the
and I'm thinking about
individual.
Context too. What is the context, the meaning that we ascribe to these choice points? These, especially in the context of Déjà Vu.
I don't know if I see them
I
as
do
choice
too.
points.
I want to
that's
see
awesome.
those moments as
I
a
love
choice
that.
point.
I think it's a cool concept, but I feel like it's almost after the fact. It's way more just sensational, like synchronicity to me. And I would imagine, like, if I was like at a Taco Bell or something, and I'm just like, oh, I've had this déjà vu. Maybe I'll.
This
get
is the moment where you actually don't get a Baja Blast.
Like,
I know it's hard. I know it is.
Start testing, screaming
So
out
he started blasting
for relief from
God.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't go into the Matrix, though. I think we would. That would make me really sad if I listened for 45 minutes into this podcast and we didn't talk about the Matrix. So,
do you guys see the potential in your own lives of seeing a déjà vu moment as a glitch of some kind?
I love that.
Land us into DIA
as a glitch.
real smooth.
Ooh, fantastic. Yeah, right. It's windy out here, so it's not my fault.
Big turbulence at DIA.
Is your captain speaking?
Exactly.
How much have you been drinking?
Lots of water. Do I see it as a glitch? I mean, I think I could. I like going scientific and thinking about things that way, and so kind of as I mentioned before, your brain might be like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening here. I mean, glitch in like the grander sense of a matrix as it being a signal of
I like the word signal.
Something's wrong here.
That's fascinating.
What if it's a glitch in your brain?
What are you saying about your brother?
I mean, it could
Chris?
be. That's the thing. Like it's the brain observing the brain. So
man,
who knows? Yeah.
Who's the smarter brother? I don't know.
This guy.
This guy. He's got 2 thumbs and is the guest on the podcast.
So yeah, it's weird. It's a cool idea in the Matrix, the way they do it, obviously with the black cat and seeing something happen over again. And
But doesn't the Oracle say you don't need to tell me your choice because you already made it?
Yeah.
So it's like he actually made the choice. It wasn't like it's like destiny, but it's also his choice.
Yeah.
Feels like a little bit of both.
But like when they change it in the code and like the very Red Wedding-esque murder scene where
the building.
they got because they changed they changed the building structure.
Right.
It's like it's a change in the code, and I think that also ties into the
Mandela
effect.
I think it's Mandela.
Effect?
I think it's Mandela.
Mandela.
Oh my god!
Like,
the Mandela Nelson Mandela effect, the Mandala effect. Yeah, change the.
That's the Mandela effect.
Not the Mandela effect. Yeah,
let's not start. That's next episode.
What?
Bernstein.
Berenstein.
Thank you,
It's Berenstein.
Chris.
Berenstein.
What universe are you from?
Yeah, Berenstein.
It's Berenstein.
Isn't it like BEIRN or something like that?
RE.
Dang.
Right?
Berenstein.
Oh, dude, we should do like a national spelling bee
and then-
see how people spell it.
Oh my god!
That's gonna be the
So
sunshine
those
data
people
right
with
there.
Bernsteins, they
Cold,
do
hard
not put
data.
their shopping carts back. I can feel it. feel
They
it.
sure don't.
I
Definitely don't.
man,
Wow.
I wonder though if Déjà Vu
Paddingtons,
has a
though.
larger context. Like in the example of the Matrix, you have the yeah.
Oh, it's definitely a bigger
Thank
context
you.
to Matrix for sure.
No,
No,
I'm
I'm
just
not trying
thinking.
to like take away from
Love
you.
ya.
I'm agreeing with
There's
you.
your
No, I was
jerk.
just, I was
Nice
just thinking
circle.
of, so you have the black cat moment. Neo sees the black cat happen twice, but what's really happening is the code is changing. The architecture of the building has changed. It's not just the black cat. So I wonder, what could be happening at the quantum field level.
Doesn't it wake him up to like something's off? So that's
Yeah.
what wakes him out
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
trap.
But again, it's the synchronicity moment though. It's
Totally.
also like a turning point. It kind of
Yeah.
connects both of them. It's like
Sure.
something shifted, and your awareness of the shift of the thing changing gives you an opportunity to potentially do something different or not. It's just in relationship to something in the
I'm
code
thinking of
being
relationship
shifted.
right there, because if Neo was by himself, he would have been in the trap. But when you guys experience a déjà vu, at least in my experience of them, I'm pretty much always with other people, and I'm always inclined to say something about my déjà vu. I don't know.
Ooh. You don't have
I'm
deja
sure I
vu
have.
just like
I'm
taking
sure
a
I
hike by
have,
yourself
but
and
I feel strongly that more often than not, I'm with other people. Yeah, I'm with other people all the time, sure. But when I have a déjà vu, I can't keep it to myself. I have to say something. And if Neo hadn't said something to Trinity, Trinity was the one who was more aware than him and was like, "Oh snap!" Yeah, he didn't know any
He
better.
didn't know. He
but
didn't know
I don't
that
know.
it was a
It
thing.
almost like
Course,
makes
yeah.
it meaningful when you share the moment with other people.
Oh, yes.
That kind of ties into the meaning and purpose. It's like, yeah, that
Yeah.
relational aspect
It's other
is
people.
great.
Yeah.
Because now that you say it, I don't think there's been a deja vu
Yeah.
where it's just me
I don't
by
know.
myself.
It also ties into the book and movie
Ooh, okay.
Into the Wild.
What do you got here?
Have you seen or read
The one where he goes to Alaska?
the one where he like burns his car,
Mhm.
burns his
Yeah.
social, and he just like goes off the grid and he just wants
Yeah.
to experience being alive. and
Yeah,
being
it's
Yeah, I
a great
think
human.
I've
movie.
seen it.
Oh,
Great
it's
movie,
so
great
good.
book.
And he died.
It's so good. I won't ruin it for you.
Thank you.
Hashtag spoilers, but like
I'm gonna let
I
you
won't ruin it
finish.
for you. But there's a
I already
moment.
did.
I'm gonna let you finish. There's a moment that ties into literally what you just said. Is it's like the significant moments are the ones that are shared.
Yep.
And it's like when you've had individual
Yeah.
experiences, they're impactful, sure. Like everyone's had a moment of not realization, but like recognition of like, I did that. I feel good about that. That feels great. But when you think about your life in totality around the experiences that we have, like for me, the definition of life is to experience it. I have the word tahi in Gaelic, which is the word experience, on my arm, because for me, that is the meaning of life. Why are we here? To experience it. And the ultimate experience, the things that really transform us, are more often than not shared experiences. I remember when I was backpacking through Ireland, and I got picked up by this couple from Northern Ireland when I was in the south, going to Denangus, which was these cliffs where you're looking over and like they're gorgeous. It's not the Cliffs of Moher, but it's like very similar.
Dover.
No.
And it was outside of a town called Doolin, I believe. Anyway, I got picked up by these two because I was walking up. It was probably going to be like a 7-mile walk. And so I was walking up there and I saw a car, put my thumb out, they picked me up. And that experience was so much more beautiful and awesome just because of this new random friend group that I met having this experience. And when I was in France, because I flew over there for 2 days because I was in Europe, and I'm like, I don't know when the next time I'll be over here. So I just, what's the cheapest flight? They said Paris. I said, book it. I don't speak French. And I ran into a kid at this hostel who went to Boulder High. And I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, yeah, I got this Euro pass. We're going to be going to Prague. You should come with us. I'm like, bet, let's look into it. And then it was like $5,000 or something. I'm like, no, I can't do that.
Wow.
It was less than that, but it was way more than I had in my budget. But like me having this random night out with this kid from a hostel that I met in Paris, who went to not the same high school, but the high school in the same town that I went to high school with, like that's so much more insanely beneficial than if I were just walking the streets of Paris alone.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it imbues meaning into most of the experiences, that we have. And like you said, with the deja vu, if we're having one and if we share it with someone that happened to be around, if it happens around other people.
Yeah.
You always say it. You're like, oh, deja vu.
Yeah,
That's so
deja
weird.
vu. Wow, that's weird. And just make sure you say it out loud. I'm gonna have to remember that next time. Be like,
Dude,
Yeah,
next
Bonnie,
time
what
one of
everybody?
you guys
deja
says
vu?
deja vu,
What happened?
Is your
we're all
captain
gonna be
speaking?
like, lock
This
in,
is totally deja
lock in,
vu.
lock in.
Okay. I mean, I'm definitely just gonna. I mean, like we talked about awareness and filtration and aquariums. No, that was random. So no, but just being aware of if it happens again and kind of trying to share that. I think for me, and then also maybe trying to lock in a sense of paying attention and saying, "Hey, what's going on? What does this relate to?" Just trying to learn some more from that
For
experience.
me, I think when I experience a deja vu in the moment, don't let it just be some quick thing that oh, deja vu, wow, cool. I would like to encourage myself to
Yeah.
slow down, really pause and take it in, and just like you said, drop in and see what's here. Does this point or associate to anything in my life that matters, means anything, or is it just me being at the same street corner again, something mundane?
To me, the most relevant kind of takeaway was when you brought in the relational aspect and realizing like how it ties everything together, meaning, purpose, fate, experience, deja vu, awareness, all of it. It's like how important relation is. And you're talking about other people being around, but I'm even thinking about in my own journey currently, really learning about deeper relationship, like with myself, but even just like how you relate with anything else. So we're talking about awareness, like how do I relate to this moment? How do I relate to time? How do I relate to picking my nose? Like whatever it is,
Just about
like
to be like,
that
Do you
beautiful,
you
It's
Chris.
a
have
big conversation to have here.
that you have a no, I mean that's silly, but like that you have a relationship to everything, and that's actually really
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
the juice is.
relationality. Yeah, beautiful.
No, I
Squeeze
love
that
that.
moment. Yeah.
Squeeze that moment. Yeah, for me, I think where I'm coming away from this conversation is awareness and understanding how when I'm at that crossroad or lock-in moment or reminiscent of something that's happening, really trying to be present and bring my awareness towards that moment to see what's going on and to see if there is any significance to be garnered from it. Because it could be as mundane as going to get breakfast burritos and
Very
whatever.
meaningful,
It
actually.
is very meaningful. It's a
And tasty.
hallowed
Hell
experience.
institution. Yeah.
But then how that also just ties into like I really love the tie into relationship and experience and meaning of it all. Right now, so there's a meme that our producer's putting up. It says, "Right now, I'm having amnesia and deja vu at the same time. I think I've forgotten this before." Stephen Wright. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a stand-up comedian, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Having the connection with relationship, I think, is really interesting, and I think awareness. I think bringing more awareness to your life in any way, shape, or form is a positive, because it's if you bring your awareness to your relationship with yourself, with relationship to other, bringing awareness to how you're feeling when you eat. I think especially in like America, we don't have a connection with, we're just so go,
Yeah,
shove
so
it
fast.
in,
Yeah.
like, and just as fast as you can get sustenance and go. And like really try to, I'll just do a short story because I know we're getting close on time. But I remember I did this meditation once and I'd never done it before. I actually haven't done it since then either, but it was really profound. It was a sake meditation. It was like a drinking meditation. I never
heard of that. Wow.
I hadn't either. And my friends, like, I did this at a Buddhist temple and it was really awesome. I'd love to guide you through one. I'm like, sweet, let's do it. So it was like 6 of us. And the meditation is you have a bottle of sake and you all have cups. You take cheers, you take a sip of sake, and then you watch and become aware with every single experience in your body, the heat, the warmth. You try to track it all the way down in your system. How do your hands feel? How's your body feel? Is there any other sensation to your auric field? Like, are you feeling more like comfortable? Are you feeling more anxious? Like, what's your emotional body like? And then you do a meditation, you sit on it, and then you take another sip. And so you do this for like maybe like 1 or 2 glasses.
No, but
so
you're
it's not
feeling
not a lot of
plastered.
alcohol.
But you're using it as an awareness tool to check in with your body.
Wow.
I've never experienced that before. And
Wow.
especially with drinking in our culture, it's like I'm sober, but like when people drink, oftentimes they're not really thinking like, that one was enough. That's good.
Yeah,
you know,
no.
like it's like another smash Thor, you know, like
let's go.
Yeah, it's
do
all
this.
very like all or nothing,
Much
or
more
big
indulgent.
big experiences, as opposed to the refinement. And I think that's where the awareness
And
is
the
what I-
awareness piece with Déjà
Yeah.
Vu, I think, is really where it ties in, is like when you bring more awareness to anything that you're doing
and refinement of that.
and the refinement of it, I think that's where
What I
you're
loved
really
about
playing
the
at a high
image
level.
of, you know, you drinking the sake, it's going into your body. How is it affecting each part of my body and my sensations and my emotions all the way through? It really makes me feel a desire when the next time I experience a déjà vu, I really want to track it and see how many connections out from the moment that I can make to the people, right? Like to
That's
you
cool.
know,
I
what
like
am I
that.
feeling?
Yeah.
Who's with me in this experience right now? Can I tie it to any other memories in my life?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are they having
How
a déjà
big
vu?
can the
'Cause
net
that would be
be,
crazy.
right?
I don't think I've ever had a collective déjà vu.
Whoa.
Collective déjà vu. Oh man.
Called
Next
tripping.
time. Yeah.
Next time.
Wow.
Eight boys
That's
after
the
dark.
amazing.
Guys, I don't think I've ever spent this much time and thoroughness exploring what is a déjà vu, what does it mean to me, what does it mean to the people in my life, and I really enjoyed the exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Andy,
absolute pleasure.
It was a
Andy.
pleasure.
Oh,
Thanks for
thank
being
you.
on our
Thanks for
cast.
being on the
Thank you so
cast.
much.
And,
Glad to be.
Yeah, come back and
You
be
have
on
a great
anytime.
podcast
And,
voice.
yeah. Sometime. No, thank you. I've been
Next
working
time-
on it for years.
That
Next
flight
time you'll
captain's
definitely have a
voice.
déjà vu, because you will.
That's right. Coming in at 35,000 feet.
You're meeting déjà vu.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you have any questions or anything that you'd like us to cover, please let us know. And thanks for checking us
Night,
out.
guys.
Next week.